Let me speak mystically for a moment. I've got the window fairly open, not that far from my bed, the foot of the bed, and I can feel the fresh air blowing onto my face. The rest of me is in bed, of course, well, apart from now holding the phone in the dark to dictate to you, to record, you understand? And the freshness you see is it's raining outside. The rain, the purity of the rain, distilled from heaven, if you like, the heavens, transforms the air because it charges it with life. You know, when you hear the thunder and there's the lightning, it's as if it were the voice of God. You know, and the Hebrew thing is that God thunders from the mountain, but it's as if it's the awesomeness of God speaking, which might be terrifying as it is to the uninitiated, you know. They quite can send Moses up instead to talk with God. They're not going to do it. But you see, in the freshness of the spray at the seaside, the negative ions, as we call it, and negative ions are the very substance of life. It's the absolute right breath intake for us. We thrive in a negatively ioned air environment, oxygen. And, you know, if it's also with the moisture, the purity, the cleansing of the water, you see. It's all there. So when it's raining, I don't mean stand in the rain and get drenched, but although my last wife used to love doing that. In India, you really appreciate the downpour and the contrast to the heat and of the day, you know. A shower is just lovely. And you breathe in what we think of as the negative ions, but it's the voice of God speaking life eternal into your very nature, bedrock, being. Thank you, Dad. You see, the lifetrons are fed by the thoughts of God. The negatively charged ionic influence, the very foundation of all matter, is life itself. The thoughts stemming from the purpose of God, which in turn stems from his propensity, his values. He is the God of righteousness, you see. The Father of all being. Negatively charged ionic particles. Do you see? His creativity divides the nothing into what we take to be creation. Separates out makes distinction in judgment, you see, of the void. You know, we have a notion there's a positive and negative universe. Or antimatter. It's that strange anomaly, as I would refer to it as, in maths. 2 divided by 2 is 1, 1 divided by 1 is 1, 0 divided by 0 is therefore 1. And of course the mathematician says, no, it's undefined. It's undefined because it springs from dividing zeros. But it's creation itself. Who can divide the nothing by itself? And give something one. And the oneness is a unity, of course. It's the very word we use for unit, singularity. And yet it's created by dividing the void by itself. This is the miracle of God's presence. He is in our realm, the eternal Creator, the Spirit of God is how He manifests to us. And all we know is that we are of Him, born of Him, that we are likewise. Thank you, Dad. So when Jesus says about the glory I had with thee before the world was, before the cosmos was, before the creation was, you see, this is consistent with His divinity, that He is of God, and God is eternal, before all creation. And Jesus knows He's of God, knows of His glory before the world, the cosmos, was. Wow. As children of God, we are the same. We, if you like, inherit in our being His being in the eternal, before the cosmos was. Wow. Love you, Dad. Thank you, Dad. Oh, let me add a note briefly here. The importance when you do the energization exercises of Paramahansa, which energize the whole body, being and spirit. And spirit, I do mean spirit, not just the body. We're talking about energizing the spirit. We're taking in these this ionic flow, the mind of God, as we visualize, as we think it into our being, our spiritual being, not just our physical body. The importance of having the window open. I mean, literally, the fresh air, as fresh as you can find anyway. And the importance at night of sleeping with the window at least open enough to give good supply of air, fresh air, into the room. reflect for a moment that he breathed into Adam and Adam became a living soul. This is at heart in the Kriya, both receiving the thoughts of God into our being, our spiritual being and physical, and this life flow, the ionic, that's in the breath. It's taken in some sense, as the air flows in. It's received into the body, and we feed on it. Do you see, the ultimate of fasting is not death, of course, but to feed on this ionic flow. I just saw a flash of lightning. I waited for the thunder, but it's a long way off. I think it was very quiet, could scarcely hear it. But there was just this quick flash of lightning. Do you see their intuition in ancient times? That somehow the awesomeness of the thunderstorm and the lightning spoke to them of God. Their intuition was right, you see, because they were of probably a more pure pastoral nature, perhaps even pre-pastoral, I don't know. Yeah. And do you see the measured breathing that Eastern people consider awareness of the breath? Is so consistent with what I might call here this ionic understanding of God. I'm come that you might have life. Breathes into Adam and have it more abundantly. So you can practice the Kriya, triangular breathing, offering the inflow to the outflow. There's a pause, an offering. I've talked about Kriya elsewhere, but I'll give a quick summary, shall I? You breathe into the count of, say, 6, hold to the 6, and breathe out to 6. You visualize the air filling the bottom, actually going up the Shushumna, I think it's called, the spine anyway, if you think of it in physical terms, the spiritual spine, from the coccyx to the visualization of the crown of the head. I do, but yeah. Do you see, you visualize the inflowing, the filling? And the ultimate, of course, is you're living on this life force. I'm thinking of it as ionic, but it's prana, isn't it? It's life force. You notice modern science is now, astrophysics is talking about force fields. That matter is really consistent with force fields. Getting close to an understanding, aren't they? In this sense. How amazing. Thank you, Dad. Oh, but not to lose the thrust of things here. I'd just like to add in this note, namely to be aware of the importance of breathing in fresh air. It invigorates the body, yes, but it actually may be feeding the spirit, and that's why Kriya was so commended by certainly Lahiri Mahasaya. It's a gift to us. Anyone can practice it. You can be the most secular of intellectual, scientific minds and still benefit in the same way. How lovely. You see, God loves all his children, not just some. All. If he made it, he values it. If he values it, he loves it. If he loves it, he takes care, always, and brings it to perfection. Us, his children. Thank you, Dad. Oh, and just another thought. Of course, I'm laying in the sun now. It's daytime, and again later, another note. But the sun's streaming down onto my body, isn't it? You see, I'm sunbathing. And to get the sunlight to as much of the body as you can, better in a private place, of course, in that sort of regard, isn't it? But sunbathe regularly and you can think of it just in terms of energy, if you like, streaming down into the body, recharging us. Plants, they develop that sugar that we need for life through the act of sunlight, don't they? Is it the chlorophyll and, produces sugar? Wonderful, isn't it? You don't know how wonderful your body is, but it's running on energy. And we, in a coarse way, get energy from foods, but it's hard work. Very sophisticated device the body is from that point of view. Able to get energy from fruits and so forth. It's easier from fruits, I argue, it's the way we're designed, but that aside for the moment, just to lay in the sun and absorb a stream of energy coming into us. Don't think of this massive divide between the physical body and the spiritual body. Ultimately, everything is spirit, you see. Everything is ultimately the thoughts of God. There is nothing else. It may form or present as prana, or lifetrons, or ionic energy, or radiation even. That would be a very coarse level of it. But do you see? It's all life. We've neutralized it to saying it's all energy, but it's actually life. Eternal life is not described in terms of matter or even time. It's described in John 17 as knowing God, the only true God. This amazing harmony of thought. I'm not quite sure when I say we receive energy, say from food or from oxygen we're breathing or from sunlight that we're laying in. Paramahansa tells us we receive it from the right thoughts. We visualize it streaming in through the medulla, oblongata, in that sort of hollow shape at the back of the head, bottom of the skull, top of the spine, and it streams into the body. And there's a certain level of consciousness where you become very aware of the streaming light projected onto what they call, if you like, the third eye, the point between the eyebrows, and it appears as a star amidst a disc of blue, surrounded by a halo of yellow light, an aura, if you like, that we're looking at the essence of God, His aura. You know, we think of the saints as having this glow of but perhaps it wasn't so far from the truth. That in some sense we all radiate energy, and one or two people are actually able to see it. Read the auras, if you like. You know, when Lobsang Rampo had the operation in Tibet to open the third eye, which was a bit sort of primitive, but still seemed to work. He went out in the corridor of the building and he came rushing in and said, "There's a man on fire in the corridor, one of the monks." And they said, "Oh, no, it's all right. He's just an angry. That's his personality. Yeah, it's okay, don't worry." His personality gave him this red, fiery, radiant aura. Not good. Presumably we want golden yellow, not the or even, you know, if it's Jesus and an angel, we suspect it could be a staggeringly clear white light or silver light, I don't know, whatever. But do you see, thoughts are radiant, and perhaps that's why, in a sense, you can pick up another person's thoughts. You know, intuition or whatever, but you know what they're thinking. Just now and again you get it right. You think, oh, perhaps it was just chance, but perhaps it wasn't. And some people do this a great deal, very effectively. And it's hard to explain, isn't it? But perhaps this goes some way towards it. You know, it was said when Paramahansa came on stage, he would bound on, because that was a visual of energy and aliveness. How are we now supposed to respond? Awake and ready. You have a job to get me to respond like that, but because I just, you know, I'm not that sort of character yet, but the energy with which he came into the room, you see, on stage, into the theatre. And I was in India, in Bangalore, and I went to Church of Penti. This chap, he'd built up from nothing a church, I don't know how many years, but it had 20 pastors. It needed it because it was roughly 100 members per pastor made up this church. So 20 times 100 is, goodness gracious, 20 times 100, 200, 2,000, yeah, 2,000 members he built up. And he gave N services a day, 3 of them in English, and there were 3 other languages he covered, and just astonishing. But he gave the sermons, of course. But you could see him wound up, almost shaking, trembling with it. And he'd come onto the pulpit, and he was alive. You know, his sermons were phenomenal. I mean, I was galvanised by them. I thought, you know, the only European in this galleried, you know, had a balcony. The theatre, it must have been, they took over. Or perhaps I'd had this built especially, I don't know, but just like a stage, theatre. But you see, he was fully charged. And I'm so, at times, so filled with joy. I'm alive. I get the whole group talking. I just do somehow. That's just impossible. I've gone on too long, up to 25 minutes, this recording with this additional note. But don't forget sunlight. Give yourself half an hour a day in the sun when it's available. An hour if it's weak. Cautious if it's strong. Beware of the midday sun in tropical climates, and especially in New Zealand, which bizarrely has the fiercest sun in the world, I think. Even my wife from southern India would burn in New Zealand sunlight. So go carefully. You don't want to go to the extreme where you've got too much burning in. But you will be well armed if you're on a fruit diet. That will put melanoma at bay very effectively. I've seen it. Yes. Well, bless you. Thank you, Dad.